Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
Fans, welcome back for Working Fans Saturday, episode 51, where the man they call Dave and AJ Strangebrew are going to talk top WWE champions.
You where's the competition? Bring on the competition. We need some competition. Y'all ain't no competition. It's time to ball. Yeah, shout it, time to brawl. Cause see, we bout to stomp y'all from the jump ball. Be worried not at all. Your team is gonna fall. Hope you learn something from it, cause we schooling all of y'all. Putting you to shame. Don't hate you even came. Bringing the pain to anybody coming through the lane. Simple and plain, we gon' play it like we playing dames. Ain't got a chance, even if we give away the game. So hope you brought your best. Go put your skills to the test. An early off season, about to lay your team to rest. Chalk is another loss. That's what it's gonna cost. Go with your instincts if you're having second thoughts. Your buck, this is where it stops, player. From the point to the center, whole team got hops, player. We be the kings of this division, here to knock you out the box, player. Just wait until I get the rock, player. We tired of playing losers. Oh, y'all think y'all some winners? No matter who we up against.
Oh, baby. I'm trying to share this shit.
Hey, let's start this off right. I think we have to pay credit to a legend who passed away this week. Mike Nesmith of the Monkees passed away yesterday, 72 years old. Rest in peace, Mike. We love you, baby.
Blackjack Lanza, 86 years old, a bad motherfucker.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit about Blackjack Lanza.
Blackjack Lanza, I love Blackjack.
Mike frickin' Nesmith passed away. I'm going to take the last train to Clarksville, and I'll call you when I get to the station.
Oh, my God. Blackjack Lanza. Anyway, let's talk right off the get-go. Today we're going to be talking about top 5 WWE/WWF/WWF world champions of all time.
Pretty sure it's just Bruno Sammartino 5 times.
It's not Bruno Sammartino. Give me your top 5. You start.
I mean, Bruno's got to be on there. I mean, he is the longest reigning WWF champion of all time. It was absolutely incredible in his time period.
Combined 12 years.
Yeah, he meant everything to the business. Hulk Hogan's got to be in there. I know he won't make some lists just due to the fact that people hate Hulk Hogan now. But I just don't think he gets mentioned the way that he should. Even those of us that weren't fans of his in our childhood, you couldn't escape Hulkamania. Mm-hmm. This isn't going to make a lot of lists, but Superstar Billy Graham, to me, it was somebody who evolved the sport and was one of the first people to really influence the change from professional wrestling to sports entertainment. With his microphone work, with his mic work, he wasn't necessarily the best in-ring general, but he's one of the best of all time. John Cena, if he doesn't make your list, I'm sorry for you, because he has held the belt as many times as anybody in the sport, and he has meant as much over the last 20 years to the WWE as anybody possibly could have. And then the 5th spot, to be honest with you, was the toughest one.
Sure.
Because there are so many WWF champions because they've watered down the pool by making everybody, hey, you want a belt? You want a belt? Oh, you get a belt. And, oh, you're now a 13-time champion. They've watered it down to a point where it's pretty much pointless at this point to pick anybody else from the modern day. So I'm just going to go with The Rock just because of what he's meant with, quite frankly, sports entertainment and reaching the masses. And the guy's a freaking one of the biggest megastars in the world.
Two people I have somebody your list there. I have Hogan, I have Bruno, and I have Cena. Where we disagree is on the two other people you picked. So
I didn't think you would have superstar Billy Graham. I think that you would hear that and go, "Oh shit!" But I still don't think he'd make your list.
No,
if anything, maybe Backlund.
You're gonna accuse me of being biased, but I put Brett on there.
Yeah, no shit.
I think that Brett. I'll tell you who my other guy is. You'll agree with my other guy, but I think that Backlund was a great champion. I think the reason why I picked Brett was besides being a 5-time WWE champion at the time. What the thing about Brett was after the Hogan era, he really changed what it was to be a WWF champion. Thank you. He got the work rate, and then it's the guys like Shawn and everybody kind of followed.
So the problem is you only get 5 spots.
I know, and I can see why I wouldn't. But yeah, and that is my last one right there, Steve Austin. And I was going back and forth between Steve and Rock, and ultimately I just felt like Steve meant a lot more to the wrestling business. Rock's clearly the bigger star, especially now. That's not even close anymore. There ain't nobody in the wrestling business even touching The Rock anymore in terms of stardom. Forget it. Game over. You're done. And I think this is the one where me and you might agree, much like you're like, I think you'd say, okay, maybe Steve over The Rock. I don't know. But then you could argue.
No, I could definitely go with Steve Austin, and that's who I was juggling with The Rock. And the reason why I went with superstar Billy Graham was because of how many people stole his style afterwards, including the guy Hulk Hogan.
I get it. And that's similar to what I did with Brett in terms of in-ring. You went more with the mic work. So, yeah, no doubt about it. Really hard to go wrong and really hard to, limit this just to 5. There are so many great WWF champions. Like we heard in the comments there, Buddy Rogers didn't make our list. But to be fair, to me, Buddy Rogers was a quick transitional champion. He was the first ever.
Dave, give me one second.
Don't do what you got to do. I got this all day. And now we're talking about Backlund. Here's a joke. He's on it here. But
need to handle this.
Bob Backlund, he was a great WWF champion. Held it for, I want to say, 4 to 6 years, his first run. And then he came back and won it almost 20 years later. So, I mean.
Wait a minute. Who are you talking about?
Backlund, sir.
Oh, Backlund, absolutely. Backlund definitely had an opportunity to be in there and meant as much to the business as anybody in that time period. He was supposed to just be transitional. Superstar Billy Graham was the transitional champion because you were going babyface to babyface. They didn't want to take anything away from Bob Backlund being a babyface by having him beat Bruno.
Right.
So, but Backlund wasn't supposed to be the champion as long as he was. He was just beloved by Vince McMahon Sr. And then Vince McMahon Jr. was absolutely appalled by how boring he thought.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about Backlund. I mean, in terms of legitimacy, in a time period where you had hookers and shooters and people that might try to legitimately beat up your champion, you really couldn't go wrong with having Bob Backlund as your world champion. He was more than handling himself.
No, nobody could actually get the belt off him unless he wanted to. And, at least when the Iron Sheik went in there in the ring with him, you had somebody else who was a world-class wrestler at the same time. But it was a similar thing with Hulk Hogan. I mean, Hulk Hogan talks about stories about being nervous going in there with the Sheik because there was all kinds of talk about the Sheik maybe breaking his leg or freaking not wanting to give him the belt.
Now, I'll ask you before we talk about our top 5 of the week here, in terms of Bob Backlund and everything like that, do you think that Backlund doesn't get the credit he deserves?
I don't think he does. He made everybody look fantastic. If you look at his matches, look at his bunkhouse matches with Sergeant Slaughter. Absolutely incredible.
Is that even or Patterson had those?
No, he had those. Patterson had them also, but they both did them. The difference is that Backlund obviously being the champion at the time. So it just Backlund doesn't get the credit anywhere near what he deserves.
What is this here? We got Finn Balor for WWE title after New Year, triple threat WWF, GOAT of NXT, and inaugural Universal Champion for WWE title, and hopefully win King of the Ring before getting released. Yeah, Finn had a very short reign only because of the injury and stuff like that. He's a guy I'd like to see them do more with and actually put the title on and get a run with.
I don't know why they seem to not want to do anything with Finn Balor.
Yeah.
People get behind him. People love the Demon. People love what he does. He's a great heel when he wants to heel. He's great offense when he wants to be on offense.
I'd be curious when his contract comes up. I'd be wondering where he ends up. Crowded though.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's starting to get a little crowded on the other side.
Yeah, which is why I don't think Johnny Gargano is gonna pick a spot right away. I think we'll see him wait it out. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'd be curious. If we were doing like if this wasn't just top 5 WWF champions of all time, if this was just top 5 world champions of all time, how many of the guys you pick would still make your list? I feel like Bruno still has to make a list.
How does Bruno not make the list?
Right.
There's nobody who you got to remember in that time period, the WWF was literally running basically 3 big venues. Right. The big venues were Boston Gardens, Madison Square Gardens, and Philadelphia. And it was very big on heritage and ethnicity and stuff like that. And they had this Italian champion who meant the world to those fans. And they had that in every culture for some reason. They had their heels were a certain ethnic background. Right. You had Pedro Morales, who was, once again, huge with the Hispanic background. And in that time period, nobody was larger in the WWF or in that spectrum and nobody sold out Madison Square Garden more. Like the Buzz is saying, it's the classic WWF model. It's what they did. It was a good guy and a bad guy, and whatever market you were in, if you were a large Hispanic crowd, your Hispanic guy, they would bring Pedro there, and that would be huge, and they would have a villain go after him.
Absolutely. Even Hulk Hogan was kind of, I think, derivative, like they were trying to do like the Irish population and stuff like that.
At first, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, if you were doing this like just as world champions, I would say off the top of my head, and I could probably think about this a little more, Race, Bruno, Hogan, Flair is almost like my immediately top 4. And then
NWA is so much easier than the WWF. I mean, Thesz has got to be on the list, in my opinion, because he held the belt for a longer period of time than most human beings did, and his career spans so long. Then you've got Flair, obviously, Race. If you want to throw the Briscoes in there, you can throw Jack Briscoe in there. Dusty Rhodes.
A top 10 of top world champions. I feel like Vern Gagne might even make a list, even though it's like AWA, just because AWA was a powerhouse at one point, and he was basically the man, even though obviously he owned the promotion. But
AWA would be a lot easier. There's Vern Gagne, Nick Bockwinkel, and then that's it.
It might be but now, those are the top 2 that come to my mind. I mean, other than like guys that really didn't hold it too long, but Kurt Hennig and Jerry Lawler.
Sure, Jerry Lawler, Kurt Hennig. Lawler still has the belt.
Yeah. He does have the belt. Yeah, he never gave it away. All right, so why don't we talk our top 5 of the week? For me, it's funny. There's a couple little ones I could mention. Like I was very happy with some tag team wrestling this week. Mustache Mountain won the NXT UK belts. Guys, check out this program. Jordan Devlin and Dragunov got into it this week. We talked a little bit about it.
I was going to list that whole program because it's 1 hour. I was going to list that whole program as one moment.
Yeah. Really. MLW had a strong show this week. Danny Limelight Rivera, former guest of the show, and Slice Boogie won the tag titles off of Los Parks. Really, some of the highlights for me, you got to go with MJF as like a baby face. I thought that was just tremendous.
Is Long Island going to become his Calgary?
It may well. The debut of Hook last night, I thought
that was a highlight for me.
I enjoyed the shit out of that. And
I'm not going to be able to pick 5 highlights. You're literally reading my list.
I got 4. That's my 4. I'm on my 5th one, and I think we'll have this one too. once again this week, I got to go with Brock Lesnar, babyface Brock Lesnar, who last night was.
Dude, I thought he was going hunting and fishing with Sami Zayn. I was so happy.
Yeah, talked about going hunting and fishing with Zayn. And then Paul Heyman with the line of night, like, are the edibles kicking in? What the hell is going on here? When did you become Canadian besties? And then Brock just starts getting fired up. Also, shout out to we talk about him all the time. My favorite color commentator there, Pat, with Michael Cole.
Just Pat. He just signed the freaking $30 million contract with freaking McAfee.
Hey,
nice try, producer Joe.
Pat McAfee, yeah. But he had a great line where it was so funny. I literally watched Sammy come out, and I'm looking at one of the male nurses. I'm like, that guy's jacked. And then Pat is just like, Sammy coming out with a very buff male nurse. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, McAfee will call attention to that stuff.
That was almost the reaction that you had to freaking what's his name? There's valet, freaking Andrade's valet. And so, wow,
the interpreter.
He should put his shirt back on. My God,
that's huge. And I didn't even pick FTR and the Lucha Bros, who had a hell of a match.
They tore it down.
Tore it up. That was my favorite match. Yeah, it was a pretty.
Okay, there was one more highlight that you didn't have on yours that I had on mine.
Go ahead.
I absolutely loved Riddle and freaking Orton this week. When Riddle throws it to him, he goes, anything you want to add to it? And he takes a second, and the crowd is cheering. And literally Orton, with the best timing that you'll see, just goes, no, I got nothing. I thought that was great.
I have to say, one thing I really we'll talk about SmackDown a little bit.
Sure.
And we'll talk about these shows individually. But I did not enjoy. Okay, this didn't make any sense to me. And somebody else called attention to it. I think it was on Post, or it might have been in another podcast. But basically, Xia Li comes out to make the save for Naomi. But she does the whole.
Where is Raven Asuka? Sorry.
I don't know. But like Xia Li does this whole long entrance before she makes the save. And it's kind of like, are you coming down? Or like,
well, not only that, but at that point, couldn't Naomi have just ran away?
Couldn't have ran away. She could have got. Who knows what could have happened? And the Xia is so
stupid. She could have just walked away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would have been funny if you just saw her walk past Xia Li.
I thought that her gimmick too and her entrance was more geared towards what they were trying to do, but in execution, I don't think was as good. It was a superhero type thing.
Oh, it sucked.
But like her kicks and everything didn't look like they were connecting that well. So
ever since she gave that concussion to freaking Mercedes Martinez, her kicks don't seem to be as stiff as they were before.
Did she kick another girl too like that really hard?
Yeah, she did. I can't remember who it is, but she broke someo's freaking. It looked like their nose just exploded. Yeah. And she might be someone else. Yeah, I can't believe she's not only hit. She didn't get fired. She's getting promoted. Yeah, she got promoted, but it's like they looked at her and said, "Whatever you do, you're on the main roster now. Don't kick anyone."
Yeah, be careful. That show for me really was all about Brock. Like Brock really did that show. His interactions with Adam Pearce, where he's talking about hunting.
Oh, that was fantastic.
And he's like, I thought, what can I name this moose to remember him? Pierce. I can't believe he's handling all this dialogue so well.
Dude, where has this been?
How many people get this much dialogue and would fuck it up? I can't imagine Brock Lesnar, of all people, is the guy to like run with this and is great.
Dude, he's killing it. That's.
I
thought him and Sami Zayn were now going to be buddies. I was looking at another buddy comedy, like Orton and Riddle.
I thought Brock was like, I thought things got a little out of hand last week. And Sammy's like, you think?
I got to tell you, I like Sami Zayn in this role too.
Yeah. It took Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar to do this to me.
I also love the fact when Paul Heyman came out to interrupt him, how he stood up, he was injured. It was like, so Roman Reigns isn't here this week?
Right.
And you thought it was a good idea to come out and interrupt me? I'm a world-class athlete.
He's like, I'll beat you up, Paul. Yeah. Now overall, like that was the highlights of the show. It definitely made the show. For AEW, that was more like that for me was more like a 2-match show. I really enjoyed the first match with FTR and the Lucha Bros, and I enjoyed Hook. Adam Cole was great as always, but to me, that was a 2-match show. I really enjoyed.
Oh, absolutely. I think they flip-flopped it. They should have had
Bros and FTR close.
Yeah. That should have been the main event.
Well, I just don't see Yuta as a threat to Adam Cole.
Well, that's the problem is it's not the rest of everybody involved in that angle, but that's an opening match. That's not a freaking Yuta's not a main event against Adam Cole, whereas the Lucha Brothers and FTR are a main event anywhere in the country.
Yeah, I think AEW sometimes does this, where they sacrifice just to get some guys in the main event scene to give them like a little bit of that rub. Whereas we know they're probably not going to win, but it's to try to give them like a.
Well, I think part of it is also the fact that it's a taped Rampage.
Yeah,
and when
Rampage is not supposed to be the B show originally in design. It's supposed to be on a par with Dynamite.
And I don't think it is the B show in general, but I find that when it's taped like that, it doesn't seem to play as well.
Yeah, you've never been a fan of tape shows.
I don't like tape shows. Wrestling should be live.
Yeah, I even remember when we were younger and Eric Bischoff was giving away the results, and I was like mad. I'm like, I want to watch that later. And you're like, no, thank you. Now, shame on them for not being live.
Yeah, next time, don't tape a show. You're in a freaking dogfight here. Why are you taping a show?
Yeah, no one knew they were in a dogfight at that time. Though. We figured that out. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else we want to talk about this week?
I think one of the things, and I thought about this, people aren't going to know this because the show's not out yet, but somebody brought to us yesterday great information. It's Mr. St. John's new favorite baby boy, Jake. He brought to us a statement, and it was basically that Vince is, out of touch, and how much has he affected wrestling storylines and people's careers over the last year, and what we watch with the cuts that he's made and with the decisions that he's made over the last year. And I don't know. And I thought about this long and hard last night. And to me, it's who he's got in his ear now. It seems like he no longer has wrestling guys in his ears, that now he has this other con and other principal people that have nothing to do with wrestling, who are just basically telling him, you need to trim the fat here. You need to trim the fat here, with no wrestling knowledge whatsoever. And he's listening to them more than he's listening to his wrestling guys.
So I'll tell you a story that I didn't even talk about yesterday. I was at my friend Rob's the other day, and we were talking about, Rob has been studying the stock market for years and years and years, and he doesn't pay attention to WWE. But I showed it to him. He looks, he's like, this actually isn't that bad. He's like, this is much better than some companies. And as he's telling me that, I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably where most of their attention goes rather than their actual product. And I do wonder someday if that's going to eventually hurt their stock, though, knowing that what I know as a consumer. But what I said before one time, I believe on the show, and I still hold this to be true in my mind, I think the company has just gotten too big and they can't manage. I think there's too many people and nobody's got like a quality control guy in here to say, hey, this doesn't make sense. We did this before, or, this just doesn't, it's just nobody really, it's just all falling on Vince still.
Well, the problem is he's brought in people now who business-wise make sense. When you look at the stock portfolio, these guys, what they do is control losses and profits and all that stuff when it comes to the stocks. And that's great, except for he's letting it affect the actual everyday product. And some of the cuts that he's making don't even make sense. How can it be cost effective to spend time making promos? And let's take the group there, freaking what were the rap guys there? Hit Street or whatever they were.
Oh, Hit Row.
Yeah, Hit Row. There you go. Let's take Hit Row, for instance. You've got 4 people. You bring them up onto the roster. You make promos for them. You set up everything for them. You give them time on your show for multiple weeks, and then you cut one of them. You go, okay, we're going to focus. We found our package here. We're going to focus on this. We're going to make it work. This is our group. 2 weeks later, they're all gone.
Yeah, it's wild.
So how can it be cost effective to spend that money and give up on it that quickly?
And I don't know if everybody understands too, like a lot of people go, oh, well, the independent business is better right now and stuff like that. And AEW is growing. But the thing about it is, like, if WWE wasn't hurting itself and say they were getting bigger too, it's probably better for the whole business. Like the business usually tends to grow because then more people are there. So like it hurts the whole business. Like luckily there is a portion of that other business going to grow because there's people that are like, I'm a hardcore wrestling fan, so I'm going to watch this instead. But
the other big thing is, and you've been in management businesses, when you bring somebody in and you train them and you invest in them and you put this money into them, you expect a certain amount of investment back. But if you cut them before you get that investment, you're pretty much just taking the money and throwing it out the window. And to do that and to bring these guys up and do what they did with them, or to do with the cuts that they've done with Keith Lee, with freaking Killer Cross, with Taya Valkyrie, with all of these people that they've cut through and let go and got rid of, you're literally just taking the money that you spent training them and throwing it out the window.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can't really argue that. Obviously they'll show like when they have their quarterly meetings, they're going to show that, we cut cost here and we're just profitable. But yeah, from that standpoint too, it does seem like a waste of money. Like, why did we have these guys hired in the first place? I guess maybe you hope that they're going to show you something, but you're not really giving them time to. So.
Yeah, now we're just regurgitating storylines. I mean, how many times have we seen the guy get his head shaved and come out with a freaking wig, for Christ's sakes? It's just
on NXT. I know.
Yeah, just regurgitating shit.
I thought of Kurt Angle too. He had on a similar the headgear and everything.
Yeah, and Kurt Angle's only one of them. You can go all the way back to the '80s with Buddy Roberts, for Christ's sakes, and what happened with him with the hair, with the freaking. It's literally the same thing over and over again. It's just horrible.
Well, on that note, now to depress me, I think maybe we'll pull the plug on this today.
Pull the plug on it like somebody needs to with Vince's freaking career.
Thank you for joining the Working Fans Podcast live show, where we do the work.
Why are you stealing my line?
I started again.
Where we do the work, so you don't have to.